When you're about to hop into a new World of Warcraft expansion, it could always be a little daunting deciding what class to main. Whether it be because you took a break for a little bit, or if you prefer to play different versions of World of Warcraft, or simply it's your first time playing World of Warcraft, the Comeback Kids are here to help. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the easiest DPS classes you can main in World of Warcraft: The War Within. This is going to be based on the skill level required to play the spec, the performance of how the spec is doing right now, the design and if it's fun, and also the theme of the class overall. Hopefully by doing so, we can help select the class that is perfect for you. Starting off with what could be the easiest and well-performing class in the game, we have the Beast Mastery Hunter. Listen, I'm going to say it right up front. If you're a new player or don't have much skill in World of Warcraft, or just simply want something that deals a lot of damage for not doing that much work, Beast Mastery Hunter has to be the perfect spec for you. This class is known for being the easiest in the game, and it's all for a good reason. It's definitely not by all means the flashiest, but the rotation of using, your kill command constantly and pairing it with your beast cleave and other talent amplifications to deal some nice AoE damage, it works really well. Not only that, you have an interesting mechanic of trying to keep up your, 3 stacks of barb shots up so you increase the damage of your pets and yourself significantly. So you at least have that to play around to keep track of, which is cool also. I will say off the bat, hero talent trees for them aren't really great, but once again, it fits the style perfectly of something that's passive and doesn't affect your gameplay rotation a lot and being super simple. You have your pack leader hero talent tree, which, to break it down simply, all it does is amplify the effects of all of your abilities like kill command, barb shot, your pet's basic attacks, increases your damage passively, the critical strike chance and bleeds, pretty much all of it just gets amplified completely passively. And I'm not gonna lie, visually it doesn't change anything, and it doesn't really add much to your gameplay, but it does increase your damage by like double instantly, so that is important to note. Their other hero talent tree, the Dark Ranger, is constantly getting buffed throughout the beta, so there could be an opportunity for that to become a playstyle later down the line, but as of right now, Pack Leader is just performing way too well for Beast Mastery to be able to take this spec seriously. Listen, if you clicked on this video and you're looking for a class to deal massive damage that's very straightforward, this has to be one of the best specs in the game for it in that aspect. I really like the Beast Mastery Hunter for new players or players coming back to WoW that haven't played in a while that's just looking for something simple, man. Moving on now to our first melee DPS, we have the Arms Warrior. And right off the bat, I will say that Arms Warrior easily is one of the better DPS in the entire game. The Arms Warrior has by far one of the most simple rotations in the game, and this spec is slapping right now. Your whole goal is simple, man. You keep up rend on your enemy while spamming Overpower to vastly increase the damage of your next cleave or mortal strike. Then if you're in an AoE situation, you pair that with your sweeping strikes and Warbreaker to like duplicate all of your damage, and then you pop some of your other offensive cooldowns, and you're gonna just be annihilating anything on your screen that moves in front of you. One thing I love about Warrior in particular is the amount of offensive cooldowns they can pair into like a 1-button macro, which can just amplify your damage by like 100% by pressing one button every minute and a half or so, which feels super satisfying to use. I've had situations where I've hit over 3 million damage cleaves while I have all my cooldowns up, and it's by far one of the more satisfying things I've experienced on the beta so far. And another thing that really separates Arms Warrior from some of the other classes out there is that the hero talent tree for the spec is one of my favorites, and it's very straightforward and easy to use. When it comes to hero talents, you have the Colossus hero talent tree that is by far the clear-cut winner for Arms Warrior, and as you go about your normal rotation, you gain stacks of Colossal Might, which increases the damage of your next Demolish ability, which can stack up to 10 times. Then when you reach 10 stacks, you activate your Demolish ability and you hit between like 2 to 3 million damage. It's by far one of my favorite aspects of Armed Warrior. You pair all your cooldowns together into this one big Demolish window, and it hits like a Mack truck. It really is like a breath of fresh air to see that Arms Warrior feels like it did in older versions of WoW. It's literally there to deal a crap ton of damage, man, and punish people big time when you have your major cooldowns up. It's performing well, easy use, fun and simple design with a badass theme of wielding a giant two-handed weapon, ripping people to shreds. I love the Arms Warrior, very straightforward. Moving on to our next range DPS that is very straightforward and easy to use, we have the Destruction Warlock. I really like the Destruction Warlock because yes, it is very straightforward, but it also has a wide variety of build options to play around, which is super, super cool and something that makes it stand out compared to some of the other classes like Arms Warrior or Beast Mastery Hunter or even Retribution Paladin. This range caster is a basic, builder and spender type of gameplay where you build up your soul shards and then you consume those soul shards on spells like Chaos Bolt and Rain of Fire, kind of like combo points for Rogue. There's also some new great additions for Destruction Warlock, and one in particular is the Summoned Overfiend effect that you get for, spending 10 Soul Shards, where after you use those 10 Soul Shards, you summon an Overfiend demon that pumps out a ton of Chaos Bolts like a madman for you. Not only that, it gives you a free Rain of Fire proc and just adds to the class fantasy, and it makes the rotation feel like butter at that standpoint. When it comes to their hero talent trees, both of them are very fun, incredibly effective, and very simple, which is very rare for a class to have. You have your Diabolus hero talent tree, which is all about spending soul shards to summon random demons from the Legion to aid you in battle, but then also amplify some of your effects. One of the ability amplifiers is actually called Ruination, that allows your Chaos Bolt to hit like a nuke when it hits the target, which is a very, very fun integration and design, and it makes me feel like I'm back in Wrath of the Lich King, tossing out those Chaos Bolts that literally one-shot people, which is really, really nice. Then you also have the Hellcaller hero talent tree, which is nice because it transforms your Immolate ability into what is now called Wither, which is pretty much just a new and improved version of Immolate. It's also really great for destruction because you can use your Cataclysm ability, which applies Wither to everything in the targeted area instantly, and then you pop your brand new 1-minute cooldown Malevolence, which increases your Wither stacks instantly and gives you a ton of haste, which feels really nice for the spec overall. Listen, I'm going to be honest, when it comes to a ranged DPS class that's super safe, easy to learn, that has fantastic design and incredible class fantasy, Warlock is easily one of the best on the list here. All 3 specs are great. All 3 hero talent trees are better. I love the Warlock heading to a new expansion. Easily one of the safest classes, in my opinion, in the game. Okay, now when you want to talk about reworks and redesigns, Retribution Paladin has to be number 1 on this list. What they did to Ret Paladin was nothing but a godsend for the spec. A rotation that was once bloated, full of way too many buttons, has now been condensed and redesigned into something very, very simple that I'm pretty sure anybody can learn and pick up. Whether you're coming from a different version of WoW or just simply taking a break from WoW, this spec for sure has to be on your radar. Your basic attacks now occasionally grant holy power, so you're not spamming Crusader Strike anymore. When you use your Blade of Justice, it now passively casts Consecrate to deal consistent AoE damage. When you cast your Wake of Ashes ability, it also activates your Avenging Wrath, so every 30 seconds or so, you have wings up and running to increase your damage. You also have your Divine Hammer ability, which is a hefty 2-minute cooldown that shoots hammers around you like it did in Diablo 2. I am loving the Retribution Paladin right now, and I quite literally can't get enough of this spec. It is very, very fun. Now, if only this class had good hero talent trees. Well, you better buckle up because I guess it does. First off, you have the Templar hero talent tree, which gives you a new activatable ability called the Hammer of Light that hits like a nuke, similar to Arms Warrior's Demolish hero talent tree ability, which you can activate after using Wake of Ashes. So it's like a really nice, 1-2 punch burst combo that you're automatically casting wings, you're popping your Wake of Ashes, you're using your Hammer of Light ability, and it feels really, really, consistent and fun to pair all this together in 1 or 2 globals. Not only that, you got your Empyrean Hammers coming down passively throughout your hero talent tree. It feels really, really consistent. I'm not gonna lie, I would probably play this spec heading into the new expansion if I liked to play multiple role types. I will say, I don't think Ret Paladin has a ton of build diversity and, design. You have 1 or 2 dominating trees in the game, and that's really it. So unless you like playing multiple role types like tank or healer, Ret Paladin might not be the safest class to play. But if you're looking to just enjoy a pure DPS spec that's, 1 or 2 specs and that's it, this is a very, very nice, super simple, easy to learn, solid class to play for you that deals a crap ton of damage. Moving on to our next caster DPS, surprisingly, we actually have the Devastation Evoker. Now, just because Augmentation is the best spec in the game doesn't mean you should take anything away from Devastation Evoker. This spec has easily some of the highest burst damage in the entire game, while also being one of the most straightforward classes you could play as well. All throughout Dragonflight, Devastation performed exceptionally well in PvE, and it looks to be heading that way in the War Within. Once again, it's very rare for a class to have 2 great hero talent tree designs, but also being simple, straightforward, and really good in the damage department, and Devastation checks all those boxes. The Devastation Evoker, you pretty much have 2 main DPS builds that you can go. You go the blue build, which focuses on, blue casting abilities like AoE Disintegrate with Scale Commander, tons of deep breath resets, so you're flying around constantly dealing heavy AoE damage. You got those AoE Shattering Stars, and generally, having your Disintegrate be like 50 or 60% of your damage in a PvE environment. And then you have your red DPS build, which is the Flame Shaper hero talent tree, which I personally really enjoy, which focuses mainly on red and fire damage-based abilities, greatly increasing your damage over time effects, greatly increasing your pyre ability, giving you access to new fire-based abilities like Engulf, which deals a lot of AoE damage based on the amount of dots the target has on them, and it all feels super fun and impactful when it comes to AoE. I'm not gonna lie, the only reason Devastation Evoker doesn't have more eyes on it is simply because Augmentation is just broken and changes the game way too much for raid groups. If it wasn't for that, they'd be a fantastic class. They have consistent damage, multiple build types that are all effective, 2 different hero talent trees that are fun and great in design, while being really, really cool thematically. I mean, what couldn't you like about the Devastation Evoker as a simple, straightforward cast that deals a crap ton of damage heading into the new expansion? Moving on to our next melee DPS, we have the Frost Harbinger of Doom, the Frost Death Knight. Once again, if you're talking about a simple and straightforward melee DPS spec, Frost Death Knight easily has to be near the top of your list. With Frost Death Knight, you do have multiple build variety types, which either focuses around, your obliterates and doing AoE frost strikes by exploding stacks of Razor Ice, or you got the Breath of Sindragosa route, which is pretty much, what this class has been about the last few expansions. Either way, I think both of them are quite fun and really effective right now. The only issue I have with Frost Death Knight is the fact that Blizzard is so up and down on nerfing and buffing the class every other week to where literally it's something different. You don't know whether the class is going to be performing well or not performing well. So this class is a bit of a wild card. With Frost Death Knight, you do have a ton of offensive cooldowns at your disposal that you could macro into each other, similar to Arms Warrior and Fury Warrior. So you have some really hard-hitting windows every 45 seconds to like a minute and a half or so, which feels really fun. Not only that, both of their hero talent trees are some of the best designed in the game, with the first one being the Deathbringer hero talent tree. This one's all about giving you a new ability called a Reaper's Mark that explodes enemies that are low life and gives you access to an ability called Exterminate, which allows you to take out a giant scythe and deal a ton of AoE damage to enemies in front of you. Thematically and from a design standpoint, this talent tree feels phenomenal, super effective. But not only that, you have the Riders of the Apocalypse, which in my opinion is the coolest hero talent tree in the game, where you summon the actual Riders of the Apocalypse to come and aid you in battle passively, where they fight for you, they cast spells, they defend you in battle, all that fun stuff. Listen, all in all, Frost Death Knight is very straightforward and has multiple build types that you want to choose that are both fun. The damage is there. I just think it gets a little bit overlooked on how many buffs and nerfs it gets, as well as Unholy Death Knight performing really, really well. But if you're looking for a melee DPS that's simple and effective, Frost Death Knight can absolutely be a choice for you. And for our final DPS spec, we have the Fury Warrior. Now, I'm sure this isn't a surprise to many of you out there, but typically when you play RPG games, Warrior ends up being one of the more straightforward classes in the game, and yes, that is the case in World of Warcraft because Fury Warrior deals a crap ton of damage while being very straightforward. I personally prefer Fury Warrior over Arms because it's a little bit more fast-paced and there's a tiny bit more mechanics involved. As a Fury Warrior, you have a mechanic called Enrage, which is a passive you try to keep up as much as possible to deal significantly more damage. And not only that, you try to keep your stacks of Whirlwind up, which after you use Whirlwind, your next 4 abilities are converted into AoE damage, which makes your rotation very simple and effective as well. Like Arms Warrior and Frost Death Knight, you have a crap load of burst cooldowns to use at once, so when you actually use them all together in like one macro, you deal millions of DPS per second, no problem, which is super, super satisfying and fun. One thing I will be upfront about is when it comes to Fury Warrior is that compared to the Arms Warrior, the hero talent tree doesn't feel as good. The reason for that is Slayer hero talent tree is almost entirely passive, but it does increase your damage drastically on abilities like Bloodthirst, Execute, and Blade Storm, stuff like that. I just wish Fury Warrior had an activatable button to deal massive damage at once, kind of like Arms, but honestly, this isn't something I'm sweating too much because the damage and rotational aspect is there for Fury Warrior, while also being super simple, fun in the process. You're wielding these giant two-handed weapons, you're cutting enemies in half with abilities like Odin's Fury, Thunderous War, Champion Spear, Blade Storm, you have Bloodthirst going off passively. I mean, the spec feels very, very impactful, a little bit faster paced than Arms Warrior, but still keeping that same feeling of being straightforward and fun. But okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up today's video on the easiest DPS specs you could main heading into the War Within that are all very straightforward, performing well right now, and have great design with hero talent trees and build variety. Don't forget, if you are interested, we have our ultimate class picking guide that we released the other day that has literally everything you need to know about every spec in the game to help you decide the perfect main for you. So if you're interested, go check it out. I promise you will not be disappointed. Well, listen, if you guys enjoyed the content, we have a ton of other videos to help you get through the war within, like these two right here. And since you're already here, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button to join the Comeback Kids family today, because every subscriber matters. Thank you all so much for enjoying the video. I'll see you in the next one.